Chelsea will be going into the 2026-27 season with a new coach but a totally broken system. The Blues had a season so bad that they finished 10th on the Premier League table and will now not be playing in any European competition next season. It is surely a whole mess for a club that big and one that has spent so much in recent years, and they have now hired Xabi Alonso to come in and fix that mess. To be fair, he really does have the pedigree. Looking at what he did at Bayer Leverkusen, helping them win their first ever Bundesliga title and doing it unbeaten, no less, he is the exact kind of coach you can put faith in to come and rebuild a broken team. But if he's going to be successful at this big task, there are some things he'll have to tackle first, and those are the things we're here to talk about today. These are 8 big issues Xabi Alonso must address first at Chelsea. First of all, he'll have to deal with the disciplinary issues in the squad. Chelsea was the team with the most red cards in the just concluded Premier League season. They saw 8 red cards, which was 2 times more than the number 2 teams on that ranking, Spurs and Everton. This lack of discipline really affected Chelsea this season. There were a few games where they were in total control, but they picked up red cards and ended up dropping points. The home games against Brighton and Arsenal are some games that come to mind. Chelsea could have won those games if they finished with 11 men. So Alonso must make sure to nip the disciplinary issues in the bud before the season even starts and ensure that his team isn't consistently jeopardizing itself by getting avoidable cards game after game. I mean, look at Arsenal. They just finished the season without conceding a penalty nor receiving a red card. It's impossible to ignore how their discipline contributed to them clinching the trophy. The next issue Alonso must address is the Liam Delap issue. The striker had a very awful season and a lot of people were shocked because he literally hit double figures for goals playing for a relegation side the season before. What exactly happened to him? Alonso must figure out during pre-season and make a decision before the season starts. Does he think he can turn the young man into a top striker just like he did with Gonzalo Garcia at the Club World Cup last summer? Or is he just going to totally give up on Delap and send him out of the club this summer? Obviously, João Pedro is going to be the club's starting striker in the new season, but is he going to trust Delap to be his deputy? If he does, what are his plans to improve his form from last season? These are the questions he must answer. He must also answer the question about Nicolas Jackson. Bayern Munich made the decision not to keep the Senegalese, so he is a player who is sort of in limbo right now. Is he going to be brought back into the fold at Chelsea, or is the club going to try to sell him or loan him out again? If Alonso decides he wants to keep him, what is his role going to be? Will Alonso play him alongside João Pedro in a 2-striker setup? Will he play him on the wing, or will he just be a backup striker? These are the big questions that the new boss must answer. Another really big issue that is already up in Xabi Alonso's face is the issue of inexperience in the squad. There are a lot of top players in the Chelsea squad, but they are all young. That squad lacks experienced players who can hold the hands of the young ones and lead them through really tough games and tough periods in the season. And this is the one problem the previous coaches have had at Chelsea. Pochettino asked for more experienced players and got sacked. Maresca asked for more experienced players and also got sacked. So perhaps before he even officially resumes, Alonso needs to have that conversation with the owners. We're not sure he can do the job that needs to be done at Chelsea without experienced players, but he surely doesn't want to continue that cycle where he comes as far as he can with the young players and then gets sacked when he asks for experienced players. And his job might even be tougher than the previous coaches because Alonso might be losing some of his most experienced players before he even fully takes over. According to reports, Marc Cucurella and Enzo Fernandez might be leaving London this summer, and these are 2 of the most experienced players in the squad, and it's looking likely that if they leave, the players who would step up in their absence would be Valentin Barco and Jorel Hato, a 21-year-old and a 20-year-old. Basically, what we're saying here is that if Alonso wants to have a long and successful career as coach of Chelsea, he must address this issue and address it very early. Next, he must address the goalkeeping issue. Over the last 2 seasons, Chelsea's seasons have been hampered by goalkeeping errors. In some of the biggest games, the club have been undone by goalkeeping errors. And it didn't matter who was in goal. Both Robert Sanchez and Philip Jurgensen have been guilty of this at different points. Even Petrovic wasn't much better before he left for Bournemouth. Alonso must now decide what to do at the back. Jurgensen has already asked to leave the club, so does he use this opportunity to sign a top goalkeeper and keep Sanchez on the bench. And don't forget that the 6'7" Mike Penders is joining Chelsea this summer. Does the coach want to make the 20-year-old the number one straight away, or does he still want to trust Sanchez for another season? If he's going with Sanchez, is he going to bring in a new goalkeeping coach to help the Spaniard reduce his errors, or is the gaffer looking to switch his tactics so that the team isn't doing a lot of short passing at the back, which happens to be Sanchez's weakness? There are so many questions he will have to answer on this topic, but he must answer them very quickly because a team's goalkeeper can make or break a team. We saw how much better Man United looked this season after they replaced Onana with Lamens. The errors drastically reduced and the defenders started to play more confidently, knowing they could trust the man behind them. So Alonso must tackle this issue early so he can give his team a solid foundation. He must also think deeply about what tactic he wants to use in this Chelsea team. At Bayer Leverkusen, he used a 3 at the back setup which brought him so much success. And Chelsea has a good history with this setup, memorably winning the league with it under Antonio Conte. But is that the best way to platform the players currently in the squad? That's one big question he must answer. And if he's going to use 3 central defenders, who would it be? Would he have Reece James on the right side of that back 3? Would he use Hato at left centre back? Where would Fofana play? Would Chalobah play at all? What about Tosin? These are the questions he must answer. Also, if you're using 3 central defenders and 2 wing-backs, it means you're sacrificing 1 midfielder or 1 attacker. Now, who is it going to be? Big questions, but perhaps the biggest question of all is what to do with Cole Palmer. He is still the team's best player, and it is often said that a coach must build a system that brings the best out of his best players. But Palmer is just coming off a really terrible season, which was caused by a lot of factors. Alonso must now take Palmer under his wings and try to fix him. His poor form in the 2025-26 season were as a result of injuries, a diminished confidence, and a few other factors. The coach must identify the problems and try to proffer solutions and create an environment that allows Palmer to return to his very best. Also, he must determine where his best position is. Is it the right wing or the attacking midfield position, or could it perhaps even be a supporting striker role in a 2-man attack? Alonso must answer these questions because if Palmer is not at his best, the whole team would likely suffer. But if he's great, then Chelsea would likely have a great run. Finally, Xabi Alonso must address the winger issue. The quality of wingers at Chelsea is at an all-time low. Garnacho, Gittins and Neto have all shown that they are not good enough. Estevão is still young and appears to be struggling with fitness issues since he moved to Europe. So what must he do? Is he going to demand a top winger from the owners? Is he going to use a system that renders wingers obsolete, like a 3-4-3 with 2 10s or a 3-5-2 with wingbacks and 2 centre forwards? If Alonso can find solutions to these problems, and early enough, we believe that he can go on to have a really good season as Chelsea coach and maybe even fight for the Premier League title. Anyway, it is now time to hear from you guys. What issue do you think Xabi Alonso must address first at Chelsea? How well do you think he'll do as coach of Chelsea? Tell us in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also, turn on the bell notification so you never miss out on new content. Catch you in the next one. Bye. This video is sponsored by Supply Handlers. This video is sponsored by Supply Handlers.